All right, well, this brings me to the time in the evening where I get to hand over the reins to someone else, sit back so I can do my learning for tonight. And tonight is definitely a session that I want to learn more about because with these summer months coming along, I want to spend more time at the beach, less time in my office, and still be making as much money, if not double my income while I'm spending time at the beach. So my pleasure to introduce to you Russell Cummings. Russell is he's a business coach. He's been coaching for about 30 odd years. He doesn't look that old, but he's been coaching for that long. And he is one of those people there that coaches other coaches as well too. So he's got a real breadth and depth of expertise that other people seek that are in the industry as well too. And tonight's topic came from a discussion that we had, in that I hope I'm not stealing your thunder there, Russ. But he was due to be he was due to be speaking at a conference on productivity, and it's really how to work less and to make more. To his credit, Russell thought, well, if I'm actually going to teach this, I better work out how this actually works in practice, not just theory. So he went out and he cut his work hours down significantly, and he made more money doing it. So when he did give the keynote presentation, he was talking from experience, not just from theory. So that's really what he's here to offer us tonight. So let's put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Russell Cummings.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Lovely to have you all online tonight. I'm coming to you from sunny Coffs Harbour today, so I've jumped on my motorbike and ridden down here to see my mum today, and I'm not sunburnt. It's just the lighting in my sister's house, so I don't know what to do about that. Anyway, Nick, thank you very much. I've got quite a lot to go through tonight, and as Nick mentioned, I've actually been a management consultant / business coach for over 40 years, Nick. So I rack up 41 years this year, and I love what I do. I work with dynamic businesses that want to grow and take themselves to that next level. My clients range from SMEs and not so much startups, but smaller businesses right through to sort of large businesses. The ginger beer guys, Bundaberg Brew Drinks, have been a client for over 20 years. So I've sort of got the whole thing. And then for one of my bigger clients, Mind Shop International, I set up their global coaching program for coaches, and I coach about 60 or 70 people for them every year. And as Nick mentioned, this all started because James Mason from Mindshop asked me to speak at a conference about 400 people, and I thought I really should do it. And it was quite interesting. So this has sort of been my sort of journey along the way. Hang on, what have I done? How do I get rid of that? Can you see my screen still, Nick? Sorry. No.
So yes, we can see your screen's got my journey on it.
That's all right. Here we go. It's all right. I hit a button and it disappeared, and it said it was all paused. So I hope this works. Anyway, let me know. So back in 2013, I actually started the process in 2012. I just realized this slide, and I was actually working over 70 hours a week. Plus, I was doing another 8 to 10 hours a week of travel to see clients, and I thought that was a fairly useful thing to be doing. And then I worked on this process, and so I dropped it back to sort of this 65 odd hours a week. And then I've just continued the journey from then. Now I've sort of plateaued out about that 35 hours a week. And I've gone from working 5.5 hours a day to 4 days a week. So I went motorbike riding today. And along the way, I've also doubled my revenue. And so the journey is more about what you do with your time when you've got it, which has allowed me to double my revenue. So we'll talk about that. So let's see how this goes. So now just checking, you can see that next slide. Yep.
Yep, see that. Sorry, I keep losing my mouse on the screen.
That's all right. So the blue line is the hours I work, the red line is the revenue that I generate. And that has, and I said that's sort of doubled over that period. And the doubling in revenues come around, I'll talk a bit about later, but because I was able to actually have more time, allowed me to think more strategically about what I was doing and how I was doing things, and apply some of the other stuff I was doing to make it happen. So let's go through that. So the thing that I really focused on was I focused on the things that mattered. I got quite rigorous with my time. What the hell am I doing with my time? And my motto became present is not productive. And Nick and I talked about this before. I used to sit at the desk like all of us, and I would sit there, and then at the end of the day, I'd go, well, that was a complete waste of time. I don't feel like I achieved anything today. Now I don't have those days. And if I do, if I'm in that mood, I go and do something else. I'll go and ride my motorbike. You'll be sick of me talking about that, but that's what I do. Or I'll go and have a sauna, or I'll go and have lunch with my wife, or I'll go for a walk, or I'll do something else. But I won't sit at the desk and just be unproductive. I'll come back to it later. Part of that was taking time for me, and that's really important, and that time for reflection, just stillness and slowing things down. And I exchange what I call busyness for productivity. So in this modern world, we're really hard pressed, and everybody's really busy. So we've got mobile phones chasing us around the place. We've got, I don't have one, but we've got watches that vibrate and carry on for us and all that sort of stuff. And everybody's focused on being busy, not being productive. And so for me, that's a really important lesson to think about, is focus on the outcome, not the activity. And so I started changing my language in my head, and I started changing language with my clients, and my clients have lifted productivity in teams by 20, 30% just by changing the language they use. So we focus more on productivity. So effectively, I changed my mindset. I eliminated some waste and inefficiency, and then I put in some good systems is the other thing that I did do. So the problem we have nowadays is we've all got too much to do and not enough time. We're constantly in firefighting mode. There's no clear planning rhythm, and we're not focused on outcomes. We're focused on activity. And for me, I guess the saying, busy is not the same as productive. It was really good. And I really focused on when I sat down and looked and audited my time, on what was I doing with my time and what was actually generating outcome and revenue for me, as opposed to just going through the motions, right? And I did lots of that, right? I did lots of stuff. I did lots of faux research on the internet, finding great tools and things to go down rabbit holes, working out how I could, do a whole heap of things. I found while those things can be useful, if they weren't going to generate productivity for me, then I didn't do them. Same with training. I used to be a training junkie. I used to spend about $30,000 a year on training. I stopped doing training that I wasn't going to implement. So I became really quite, I guess, quite rigorous and quite hard on myself and saying, is this going to help me improve my productivity? If not, I won't want to do it, because, working 70 hours a week after a while becomes a bit of a drag. And, like Colin, I've worked 90 and 100 hours a week in previous lives, and it's something that's hard to sustain. So what I've done is put some of this down in a couple of books, right? And this one on the left-hand side, Focused Execution, is the book that's the why of getting the mindset right and all that sort of stuff. But it started with the book on the right, which is a daily journal and planner. And what I did was I was talking to a client, and she said, "I love the way you helped me go from an annual plan to a 90-day plan. I then really struggled to make it, what do I do every day to help move my business forward?" And I went, "Okay, here's what I do." And she said, "Oh, that's fantastic. Have you got that written down somewhere?" And I went, "Oh, no, of course not. It's in my head." And so I codified it for her, and she said, "I want a journal I can fill out every day that helps me plan my day and get the right things done." And so I developed that, and I put some instructions in it and some other stuff. But then I realized it actually needed something else, because there's a whole lot more to being productive than just putting a time management system in place. It's about mindset. It's about what you do with your time and everything else. So let's talk a bit about that stuff. So the key model that I work on is what I call the focus, discipline, control model. All right. So the focus is making sure you were working on the right things. So we're actually doing the things that matter. The discipline is actually sticking to the plan, and making sure that you are focusing on the things that you're there, because you have to have that discipline. And the last piece then is control, which for me is controlling the environment so that I can be focused and disciplined. And I think that's the one we often fall down in. So let's talk about each of those. All right. So focus for me is working on the right things. And I apologize if I'm moving through reasonably swiftly. I'm only covering a small proportion of what's really, here, but I just want to cover some of the main things for you. First thing I think is really important is that my philosophy in life is that all good things start with a plan, right? It doesn't have to be a detailed plan, but we need to have a plan, particularly in business, right? Um, and what I find is we don't cascade plans. I do lots of strategic planning for organizations. I do help them then set up an annual plan. We cascade to an annual plan, and then sometimes to a 90-day plan, but we don't actually go to a monthly, weekly, daily plan from that. And the thing is that when we're cascading our plan, it's really important that you get the detail at the right level. All right. So often I find strategic plans that are as thick as a phone book with detail out for 5 years' time, who's doing what in September 2027, you know what I mean? And the chances that Margaret's going to be there in 2027 in the current marketplace is pretty slim, right? So I find the details at the wrong level. So a really important thing for me is getting this cadence right. So we get our plans happening, but we go from 90-day plan to monthly, weekly, daily plans is where you really get the productivity gains. Now, my clients who have a 90-day plan outperform my clients who just have an annual operating plan by significant margin. So I now push all my clients to have a 90-day plan. And we generally have a 90-day business plan and a 90-day leadership plan for the business owners as leaders in their business. All right, that's a discussion for another day. And then we've got to get weekly and daily priorities. So this is probably the crux of it all, right? So I think we don't spend enough time defining what must I do as opposed to what should I do or could I do. And so what was happening with me, and this might be happening with you as well, is that I would have a list of 25 things to get done today. And at the end of the day, I ticked off 4 of them, and then I felt like a complete failure. And to me, that was quite debilitating, but it was also wrong because there was no way in the world I was going to get 25 things done today, right? That was just crazy work, crazy talk in my head. So I then started thinking, all right, what must I do? What are the things I must do? You know, and I try and have a weekly plan that lays out all the things I must get done this week, some things I should get done, and some things I could do. And I break them down into what I call big rocks, which are the main focus for my 90-day plan. And I try each day, I only try and have 3 or 4 absolute must do's. Now, I might have a lot more should do's. I rarely plan a could do anymore. I rarely write down the could do's because I just find there's just too much detail. I never get there. So I just plan my must, 3 or 4 musts in a day, and they are things that must get done today. And I try not to finish work until they're done. Yeah, but I don't work long hours. Like I really don't work long hours. But I try and get it done. Now, there's some days I can't get there because I'm human, just like everybody else. But most of the time, I tick off my 4 things, and I'm happy. That is my day. I'm being productive, right? So I've got those things done because they're the must do's, right? And they're a combination of things that are highly strategic, but also important in terms of client delivery and a whole lot of other things. The shoulds are things that I should do and I get to. Obviously, some of those become musts over time, but that in itself is I guess a conversation for another day. And a whole heap of the coulds, I mean, they just sit there and sometimes they're not that important. So for me, must do's are a combination of Stephen Covey, if you've seen his 4 quadrants model. Quadrant 1 is stuff that's important and urgent. They're a combination of those, but also things that are in quadrant 2, which is the stuff that is, I guess, important but not urgent, right? So that's strategy, planning, training, health, personal life, all those other things that we let slide. We kick that tin along the road a lot. And I started kicking on this because I've had a business coach for 28 years, and Chris every year, it's really annoying. He asks me, "So what are you going to stop doing this year, Russ?" And it's an amazing question to ask yourself. So what are you going to stop doing? Yeah, and if you're going to free up time for growth in your life and your business, you've got to stop doing some of the stuff. And some of the stuff I stopped doing is shoulds and coulds. Yeah, they're things that'll be nice to do. Yeah. So this is a pivotal model for me in the process of getting your productivity right. So I guess I just think about it as, let's be really clear on what we need to do. The musts are absolutely critical. What else do you need to do? Now, people will argue with me about this, but I've got a number of clients doing this now, and they're going, it makes a huge difference that if I just focus on those, and then I feel good about myself, right? So there's a bit of psychology behind it as well. And don't forget, we get a lot of dopamine hits from ticking things off the list and feeling like we've completed things, right? So you then feel better about yourself, you're more productive and everything else. Part of this is also part of the routine is also reflection, right? So into that 90-day journal, we have, we reflect every day. We have a quick reflection, what went well, what didn't go well, what do we need to change? And then what are the rollover tasks that I need to make sure that I put to the priority tomorrow? But we do that on a weekly basis, also do it on a monthly basis, and then a quarterly basis. And it's just a simple question. Those three simple questions, are really, really important. Yeah. So getting your priorities right, all that sort of stuff is absolutely, absolutely critical. And then reflecting and saying, okay, how can I improve this system? How can I make it better? Is the basis of making it move forward. Okay. So I can keep talking about that for ages. So the other thing that I started asking myself is some questions, right? Because you've got to have a better mindset, you know what I mean? And the first question I ask myself is, why are you so lousy at time management? Why are you working these long hours, generating all this sort of stuff, everything else, when you know what to do? I'd been to about 400 time management courses. I'd bought every daytime a diary and diary system under the sun. That's how old I am. They weren't even electronic. I had apps. I've had all sorts of things to help me do this stuff, and I was still lousy at it. And for me, it wasn't the tools and it wasn't the systems I was putting in place. It started with my belief systems and that sort of stuff. And I started saying to myself, why do I focus on activity and not outcomes? And the answers to those questions are really important, right? So I focused on activity because it made me feel good, because I was busy. I was a busy person. I was busy, not on the outcomes that I need to solve. And then why do you beat yourself up when you were never going to complete your task list was the other thing that I asked myself. Why do you do that, Russ? You know what I mean? Sometimes we like to flagellate ourselves a bit, right? So that they were the sort of critical mindset questions I asked myself, but there could be a lot of others that you need to ask yourself depending on your situation. All right, so I keep a journal. I now use it in a Remarkable tablet. I've got a Remarkable 2 tablet, but I've kept paper journals for years. I've probably got 15 or 20 of them on the shelf, and this is actually photos of a couple of them. And it's not a daily diary, right? It's a place. So it's not, dear diary, today I went to the movies sort of, journal. It's a place for me to collect my reflections, my thoughts, but particularly my plans, aspirations, goals, ideas, new concepts, all that sort of stuff, right? So this one here is about a concept I have for improving productivity in professional service firms based on how the manufacturing industry does it, right? So I've written all that stuff down. So I have journals of this stuff. And what I find is it gets them out of my head, writes them down, puts my plans down, my ideas down, everything else. They're in one place. I use a simple organizational structure, but that frees up my mind for other things. And the physiology is we burn up a lot of energy simply storing information in our head, and getting it out and putting it down is quite cool. The other thing is I find when I go back and look back over them over time, I'm stunned at how much of this stuff I've actually implemented and done. Really quite incredible. But that's where I put all my plans and stuff. It's something that my coach told me about 28 years ago. It's probably the first thing he told me to do, and it's probably the best thing. So I encourage you to set up a journal so that you reflect and take the time just to stop and prop and think about what you're doing, and start making some notes on how you can improve things, what you could do, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Important tool, simple tool, very cheap. Like my journal is literally an A5 hardcover, only because I put it in my bag and take it with me everywhere. So it needs the hardcover. The soft covers, I just destroyed them. Just aligned journals, all I know, or one with a grid on it or something. Doesn't matter. Blank papers, pages, you can draw things, whatever you want to do. All right, so that's about focus, right? Then motivation. So for me, motivation's fleeting, right? It's one of those things you get really motivated and then something happens, then you're not, right? Whereas discipline puts that reliability into the system. And I found that I could be focused, but unless I had the discipline to stick to the plan and do my must-dos and all that sort of stuff, then it didn't happen. And so, it's about building productive habits. And so some of those productive habits for me are around time blocking, Pomodoro, morning and evening routines. And, I love this quote: we don't rise to our goals, we fall to our systems, right? So it's about putting some of these good systems in place, which are around the discipline of doing this stuff. So time blocking, I don't know if anybody does any time blocking, but it was one of those things. And I have to say, I'm not naturally a person who likes control and likes to be systematic and controlled in what I do. I'm quite a free spirit. I have problems with authority. I don't like being told what to do, even when I do it myself. And I found all this sort of stuff was like, oh, yeah, do I really need to do this? Nah, I can find a better way. The truth is, when I do it, I'm way more productive than when I don't. And so I've learnt to really savor that the time I have, the free time I have, and all that sort of stuff. So it's something now I focus on, and I'm actually far more disciplined than what I used to be. So time blocking, simple technique. You just schedule dedicated blocks of time in your calendar. So my calendar is probably one of the more important tools that I have. I'll talk a bit about those later. But I put in there, that's where I'll look down for the day. I'll map out a bit of a day. Then I will look at my must-dos, and I'll look where I've got a block in the day, and then I will put those tasks in there, right? So I will block out a time for those tasks. And I was talking to a client about this morning, and we were talking about this sort of stuff, and I said the key is you have to treat the stuff you time block as something really important for you, right? So for me, a client meeting or whatever is immutable. I don't move those unless the client wants to move them. I mean, sometimes I have to, but generally I try not to. And and when I'm in a client meeting with a client, I turn off my phone. I don't check my emails. I don't do all those things, right? So what I found was that if I treat the working on my business opportunities and the things I have to do, the focus work stuff, if I treat that as something really important, then I do the things that make it important. So I turn my phone off or I put it on silent, or you know, and I certainly shut down my email and all that sort of stuff. And we'll talk a bit more about email later. But I close all those things down because they're distractions and I don't want those distractions. All right. So all you do is put it in, focus on the time, be realistic, right? Allow time for breaks, all that sort of stuff with it. That's time blocking. The really powerful one is the Pomodoro technique. And I don't know if you've come across this, but I stumbled across it at a random webinar I was on years ago. It's probably the most powerful thing I think I've found for managing time. So the Pomodoro technique says you basically take 25 minutes. So you do things in 25-minute bursts with a 5-minute break, right? And why it's named after small Italian tomatoes, I'm not sure, but that's what it's named after. And so what you do is do these little bursts of activity. And what they've found is that you stay concentration at a really high level, even though you're having a break. Whereas if you're interrupted constantly, you lose your concentration. But if you stay focused, have a quick break, and then go. And they liken it to you can't sprint a marathon, but you can if you break it up into short 25-minute breaks, right? So if you break it down into short little sprints, then you can. And so this is what they do. So I try and I measure my time when I'm doing my planning for the day. My must-do tasks, I'll estimate how many Pomodoros, how many half-hour blocks they will take, and I try and time block those into the day. Yeah, but it's a really powerful technique, and all you do is open a little timer. So that's the link for the timer. It's free. You can get them on your. I've got another one called Be Focused, which is an app on my phone, and all I do is click on those, and I click on that, and it starts a 25-minute timer that counts down. The powerful thing is it's like a ticking time bomb, right? So it's ticking down and it kicks your brain into overdrive. And all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, I've got to stay focused on this. I've only got 12 minutes left. And you'll be stunned at how productive you can be if you concentrate and stay focused, right? It's a simple tool for doing that. And so I've got clients who are using it. When somebody comes to them in the middle of it, knocks on their door, comes in their office, they just say, listen, I'm just in the middle of something. Can I come back to you in 11 minutes, please? And then they'll go back to them. And they might have a longer than 5-minute break, but they've got 25 minutes of concentrated time. Try it. It's absolutely stunning. Got to be honest. It's probably the simplest technique you'll ever find. And if you've got work to do and you've got to get it done to a deadline, just break up and use the Pomodoro thing. But you've got to take control of the environment, which we'll talk about in a while. The other thing, one of the really important things is routines. And I have a really, this is, I've got to be honest, this is not necessarily my routine, but I have a routine in the morning and I have a routine in the evening, right? And I'm not an early waker, so that's the bit that's not me, but I do wake up at a consistent time. And I actually do a little bit of meditation before the day starts. So I actually found meditating, getting out of bed and sitting cross-legged and going on wasn't for me. So I actually just lay in bed and I focus on, I just do some meditations that I've got and I just focus on those, and it clears my mental space and it creates a great way to start the day. Drink some water, do some light exercise, stretching, whatever works for you. The important bit is I do 10 minutes of reflection in the morning. You know what I mean? So I use my 90-day planner to plan my day. The important thing for that is I don't look at my email before I do my planning. We'll talk about email in a while, but I don't look at my email because that's somebody else setting the priorities for your day. All right. And so, as part of that, I review the top 3 priorities for the day. I think about my why, what my big strategic goals are, and any overnight ideas or concerns. And the other thing I try and do is start the day with a focus block. If I can, the first 60 to 90 minutes, I focus on a high impact task. So that's, 2 or 3 Pomodoros if you want to use the previous stuff. And those focus blocks I think are really important. I do them at other times during the day, but if I can, I really like to start the day on that. And then I really kick-started the day well, right? If I can do 60 minutes of focus, I'll actually kick off knocking over a couple of musts, which then mean I can do a whole heap of things, right? And I'm probably like you, I get calls from clients, they get emails on things that changes my priorities for the day. But if I've already done that in the first couple of hours, then I'm really on board and really starting to cook for that day, right? Key principle, start deliberately, not reactively. So avoid checking your emails, avoid checking your emails or any social media first thing, right? Because that's somebody else starting to set your day for you, and you start reacting to what happens to you rather than starting the day deliberately. Okay. Evening routine, I will take 5 or 10 minutes just to reflect on the day, what went well, what didn't, what are the key lessons I want to take out of that. Some gratitude stuff. I often do that in the morning as well. That's really powerful and making me really, just thinking about what are you really thankful for. And then I quickly review tomorrow, prepare mentally, note the top 3 tasks, right? But I don't spend a lot of time mapping out the tasks because I do that the next morning, but I just have a think about it. So I've written them down and got them out of my head. So I sleep a lot better when I do that. And then, I try and avoid screens and stuff for at least 30 to 60 minutes before I go to sleep. And I do that by reading, so I read, I meditate, quiet time. Generally for me, it's just reading. So I read non-fiction. If I read fiction books, I tend to take on a let's conquer the world mentality from reading some books. So my brain doesn't shut down. It actually kicks into overdrive then. I'm also very nocturnal, so I can stay awake till 3 o'clock in the morning, going down rabbit holes if I want to. I'm much better when I go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. All right. So what you want to do is use that evening thing to close the loop on your day and reduce that mental clutter so you get better sleep. I used to live on 4 hours sleep a night. I now find I need 8 or 9 hours sleep. Not need, I function so much better when I have 8 or 9 hours sleep. And once I get into the habit of it, I can do it. So sleep's absolutely critical. All right, let's talk about control. Getting rid of the noise. All right. So the noise is I find the stuff that makes us unproductive. It drags us off task. It makes things happen. So for me, control is absolutely critical. And that's removing those distractions, physical and digital, aligning work with peak energy times and using those focus zones I talked about for deep work. That's the control piece that I think is really important. So let's talk about a few things. So take control of emails, right? So emails are really interesting. And you're talking to somebody who grew up in the era before email, right? So my working career, I didn't have email till, for the first 5, 6, maybe longer years, we didn't have email at all. In those days, we would write letters to people and take a week to get a response if it was urgent. So, I guess emails changed all that, and I'm not saying I wouldn't go back. I'd go back to those days. I find it's fantastic, but I find that if people are expecting you to respond instantly to emails, they're probably using the wrong tool to communicate that with you, right? Because that just assumes that you're sitting in front of your computer or your phone or whatever, monitoring your emails, waiting for those messages. And I'm not. I'm often with clients. I'm in doing other things. So therefore, I find that email is the wrong place for an urgent thing. So I have a conversation with my clients and say, if you want to contact me urgently, please don't send me an email. If you want to contact me urgently, either send me a text message or pick up the phone and call me, and I'll respond to either of those far quicker than an email. But please don't expect me to respond quickly to an email because I may not see it, right? I tend to check mine 3 times a day, but I've done 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. quite well. I sort of go a little bit earlier. I sort of go 10, sort of 1 and 4 about when I check my emails, and then I'll go through those. And that just gives me that means I'm not distracted by those things that pop in there. I use the 4D rule. You know, if it's under 2 minutes, if I can address it under 2 minutes, I do it then and there. If not, I defer it and schedule it, and I often time block it in to do stuff. So I might even time block an area in the day to some of those deferred emails. I either delegate it to one of my virtual assistants to deal with, or a colleague or somebody else so I can do it, or I delete it if it's just spam rubbish that I don't need to respond to, then I get rid of it. I use rules to do a lot of this sort of stuff. So I use rules in Outlook to actually sort my email. So all my any emails that come in for a client gets automatically sorted into a folder, into their own folder, and then I can look down it and see if I've not responded to a client email, and everything else gets sorted into different categories. But some of those are categories are ones I take notice of, and newsletters and all that sort of stuff. As nice as they are, they're not high priority for me, and I'll go back and scan through them and look at them, but often that's not what happens. So keep your inbox clean. I can't say I go to inbox zero, but that's where I aim to get to. I'm pretty good at it for most days. But the number one rule is don't start your day in email. Start with your priorities instead, right? Because email is somebody else's to-do list, not yours. And it's about being intentional and taking control. Emails, meetings, there's a whole heap of stuff in this. Read Patrick Lencioni's book on death by meeting. It's really quite good. A couple of key strategies, say no to unnecessary meetings, so guard your time. Set a clear agenda, so share that in advance. Start and finish on time. Define the outcomes. What decisions and things are we making? And my thing is meetings should be around us making decisions and taking action, not updating everybody on what you've been doing. Make sure you're signing owners with due dates. Limit attendees. I go to clients meetings when there's everybody in the buildings almost in the meeting, and most of those people don't need to be there. Yeah. And if they do, then we could probably have other meetings that include them, but they don't need to be at every meeting. And then the other thing I've started doing is just saying, how can we cut this in half? And that started when I was on the board of a charitable organization, and we were taking 4 hours every month for a board meeting. And I just said, this is just craziness. How can we cut this in half, folks? And we did it in an hour and a half eventually. We had better conversations, deeper conversations in an hour and a half, rather than 4 hours of rambling on, and involved a few of the principles we'll talk about later. So meetings should drive actions, not just discussion. And if it doesn't need a meeting, then use not me, somebody else, it's asynchronous communication. So that could be a video, it could be we call it an audio message. It could be just a decent email. It could be a report. It could be PowerPoint. It could be something else. But it's just a one-sided thing, and I can come back to it if I need to. But lots of things could be done with asynchronous communication rather than a meeting. Just watching the time. The other thing is take control of your phone, right? So about 2 years ago, I watched this amazing young character on YouTube who had his phone doing all sorts of things. So I've actually put that in place. So now my phone, I've set up this thing here. You can see there's eight functions there, 6 main ones. So I have different settings for work, sleep, exercise, leisure, riding my motorbike, and travel. All right. This one here is just low. The bottom two are just low power mode or maximum power. Turn those on or off. And these are the a couple of apps that I have, banking apps, a few other things I want to have. And then when I hit work, it sets up a different screen. So I then have a different screen, which is this one here, sorry, which has my Outlook calendar. It has my Asana, which is my task list, Go High Level, which is my CRM, ChatGPT, my Remarkable tablet. This one I've just changed. It's no longer that one. And it has something where I can hit a button and it can set up my phone for meetings. So it turns off functionality, a whole heap of other things, so I don't get buzzed and bingled and stuff during meetings. So it's a do not disturb sort of function, and that's just to start and finish that. So that's work, leisure, got all the stuff I want to do. Travel sets it up for travel, and then when I jump on a plane, I have another one. I hit the button and it sets it up for flight. So it puts into flight mode, opens all the apps that I might want to look at, my Kindle, all that sort of stuff. Opens it all, sets it all up the way I want it. Yeah. So I find that's a really powerful sort of for way to take control of it. And what it means is that I don't then get distracted by I guess things that don't matter, social media, prompts, and pings and dings and everything from lots of different people. I shuttle that down. You can do this in Apple. You can also do it in Android, where you take control of what notifications you want to get, and you have them at different settings. So yeah, really, really quite a powerful thing I've done. And then when I'm ready to go, I just scroll. That screen basically is the pairs to any other screen or two screens I may have up. And then, yeah, so I just hit those, it jumps between different usage patterns. Sounds crazy, but it means I'm not being distracted by, the latest deal on Amazon when I'm trying to concentrate on work. It means my social media is not flashing in my face, telling me to do things when I'm at work. Yeah. And I don't need to be in it. And if I do go there, it's a deliberate thing that I do. All right. So that's really important. And this is just part of what I've done. So the other piece that I found really important was building a task system. And the technology is really important here, right? So and these are the I guess the tools that I use, but I'm not saying you can't use anything else. They're just happen the ones that work for me, and I've tried lots of different ones to get to these ones. So I use Asana that captures all my projects and all my tasks and communicates with my virtual team in the Philippines, right? But we used Trello for a while. We used another one I can't remember the name, and I just found that Asana it was probably more than we needed, but it had a lot of the things that enabled us to communicate really well, and for me to track where we're up to with different tasks and things. So that's important, and it's like where I capture all those things. Outlook, I use Outlook for email and my calendar. And my calendar is the key component of it. My calendar is color coded, and it's what I use to drive my day and manage my day because it tells me where things are and what I have to do. And it shows me where I've got gaps for time where I can time block and lock things into. I use Calendly for appointments. So as a busy consultant, I give my clients a link. They can make all the Zoom calls and all that sort of stuff that they need using Calendly. When I asked them about it, because I thought it might be a bit restrictive because it only tells them when I'm available. They said it gives us a sense of freedom that we can access your diary and put stuff in it when it suits us, rather than you calling up and going, hey, what about Tuesday? And they go, yeah, okay, when Tuesday really doesn't suit them. So I found it was a really good thing. I use my 90-day productivity planners for setting priorities and daily plans, and that's that weekly, monthly plan stuff. And then my journal is currently in the Remarkable 2 tablet, and I use that for my journal, my plans, and client notes and that sort of stuff. And then I use OneNote for capturing information. Yeah. So that's where I store not client files or anything like that. That's where I store blog articles, thoughts, plans, all that sort of stuff on my business. I store all those in OneNote because I find it easier to recover things. I would love to use Notion. I've had a look at Notion. I really quite like the way it works. Got to be honest, I can't get all my notes out of OneNote easily. Thank you, Microsoft, into Notion. So I'm just going to have to do that one day when I'm feeling brave. Okay, so that's my task system. Let's talk about doubling revenue, right? So everybody think this is the hero piece, but it's actually the time management that's a hero piece, because when I had more time, I was able to be more strategic about my products and services and the offers I was making to clients and the way I was working with people. And I looked then at where I'd built inefficiency into my systems, right? And one of the things I looked at was, I talked about cutting meeting times in half. I looked at the meetings I was having with clients and what we were doing in those meetings. And I realized that a lot of the meetings I was doing with people, I was talking to them about a concept or a tool we're going to apply or a methodology for doing something. They were then processing that. We were talking around that. They were coming up with stuff, and then we would actually do the thinking and the planning or whatever it is that dropped out of that. So I realized there was a whole heap of time that I was spending with clients. We were spending with them because they hadn't done the thinking beforehand and hadn't explained what we were doing. And so I've set up a systemized system of pre-work. So I looked at all the key things that I do with clients, common problems that we talk about and we deal with, and then I set up a series of videos that explain what we were going to do, some work modules in Google Docs and stuff for them to do a bit of work on. And for me, it's not about them doing the work, it's about them doing the thinking. So now what find is I turn up, my clients are preloaded with what we're going to do. We talk it through, they're across it, they've got good questions to ask, they've actually thought about it, and away we go. And I don't actually care whether they do the pre-work in terms of writing stuff into the modules. That's okay, because it's the thinking that's the important. And that saved a whole heap of time for me, right? And then systematizing the delivery of that means now it's an email. Okay, so I think about the plan I've got for our next meeting. I understand what their agenda is. We talk about what's the agenda, what we've got to do. Then I'll flick them an email out of my CRM, which has links to videos, links to their workplace, all that sort of stuff in it. That goes really, really well. I reduced my client meetings in half, or I doubled the output, right? So that was I guess the function of doing that pre-work was it cut my meetings in half, or even for the same amount of time, we're able to do a lot more for clients. And like everybody's really busy. So if we can do something in an hour instead of 2 hours, everybody wins, right? Everybody's happy with that. So that was a bit interesting. And then the other thing I did was momentum calls. So I have a 15-minute call with clients every week, and that maintains momentum. But the unexpected benefit of it all was that it reduced the number of meetings I have with clients each month, because we have regular catch-ups. In that 15 minutes, it doesn't sound long, but we can often address a lot of the issues. Or if they've got something we need to talk about, we'll just take that offline, and I'll go, okay, can I call you back in an hour and a half when I've got time, or tomorrow or something, and we'll do that. So I found it reduced the number of meetings a month as well. So not only have I cut my meetings in half, I've now reduced the number of meetings that I've had just by thinking about them. And I've got to be honest, momentum calls were something I wrote down in my journal 10 years ago. I thought nobody would want them. Accountability calls might be another name for them. I thought nobody would want them, so I didn't do them. And I went to a conference, and one of my colleagues who I respect was talking about how he was doing with clients. And I asked him about it, and he said, I do it with a couple of clients. And so I went and asked my most problematic client whether they wanted to be involved. And they said, yeah, that'd be good. And I thought, if they want to do it, then everybody will do it. And then I've leveraged AI. I use it to build draft plans. I analyze business and individuals. I do client market research, competitor analysis, survey analysis. I prompt myself and check myself. I use it as a checkpoint. So that's really good. I think the thing with AI is you've got to remember it does 80% of the work. Yeah. You've still got to do the 10% at the front and the 10% at the end. And the keys for me are lock it down as best you can, so that your data doesn't go anywhere and you're not training models and doing things. You still got to anonymize data in it. I still don't trust it enough to do that. You've got to make it right like you. So that's quite simple. You just upload some stuff in it that you've done. Nick can tell you how to do that. I won't do that again. Learn to write great prompts. That's probably the thing I've done best. And then use it as a sounding board, an advisor, a coach, or a consultant. But above all, don't trust it. Question everything that it comes back with, and look at it so that it makes sense. Okay. So just the final sprint to the end. So some resources to help. Coming up on Friday, I'm actually running a quarterly planning workshop. So anybody wants to build a 90-day plan, it's a free workshop. You're welcome to come along to that. A webinar. You're welcome to come along that. It's about setting up for the last quarter of the year. That's Friday at 10 a.m. And then I'm about to launch, I think we'll start at the end of October, but an AI for business webinar series where we're just going to focus on, how do we use it for planning? How do we use it to improve productivity? How do we use it for marketing, sales? And I know Nick's done a heap of that stuff already. I've also got a colleague who's going to talk about how you roll it out in bigger businesses, and that's his area of expertise. And then in February 2026, I'm going to run a time and priority mastery learning sprint. So we're going to actually take some of the learnings I've talked about today, but in a lot more detail, and learn to apply them in your business. And that'll be, in February sometime. So I said, I've got the focused execution book, which is the why of how you do all this sort of stuff, and some of that high level stuff around mindset and other things. focus, discipline, control, and all the other things in it. And then the 90-day sort of productivity planner is the action plan for that. So what's our 90-day plan look like? If that's where we're going to be in 90 days, where do we need to be in a month? If that's where you want to be in a month, what are you going to do in the first week? And then what do you do every day after that? I put some, blog articles and things that explain some of this stuff. Most of them have videos that help you do some of these things. So that's available there. These are all on Amazon, so you can grab a copy of those. And then the other thing I've done is my clients, the biggest challenge was with AI and what to ask it. So everybody was going, I love what you do with AI. I just don't know what questions to ask it. So I actually asked AI what it would do, and it said, well, you should give them a prompt library of prompts that they could use. So I sat down and wrote one for business success with my friend ChatGPT, and then that was good. But then I thought, oh, my clients in manufacturing, that's a bit useless for them. So I wrote one for manufacturing, then I wrote one for professional services in different areas. And then I thought, oh, it's a bit useful. What about a CEO? They might want one. So I wrote one for CEOs or managers or whatever. And then I thought there's particular situations I want doing. So I've now written 20 of them. So if I haven't written one for your industry or business, you might tell me, and I'm happy to write one and get one done. I just put them on Amazon. They're $8 each or something. So I'm not doing them to become a best-selling author. I just want to help people make some real decisions and make use of some of these great tools. All right. Now, the door bundle that I've said that we'll do tonight, Nick, is a copy of the 4 books. So there's one on focused execution, which is the thing. I've got an annual planning journal as well. It steps you through how to build an annual plan. Of course, the 90-day planner is then how do you build your 90-day planner and make that a reality. And then I'm happy to give you an AI prompt book. Whoever wins it can tell me which one they would like. All right. Of course, what should you do for the next 7 days? For me, make sure you've got a good task system. Block out 2 90-minute focus zones in the next week. So just make them happen. Eliminate one time waster. Is it email? Is it meetings? Is it phone? What is it? Just try and work out how you eliminate it, and then be intentional when you plan your next week. All right. All sorts of stuff on my website, which is shift with 2fs.com.au. That's the Welsh word for shift. And you're welcome to go along. There's lots of free resources and stuff there that I've been building over the last 30, 40 years. All right. Final thought, you don't need more time. What you need is more focus. And I find that the focus is the absolute key. All right, Nick, we're done.
Fabulous. Excellent. Thanks, Russ. Any questions there from anyone? I'm just looking for the chat at the moment.
I've got one,
All
Nick.
right. Jane, go ahead.
Yes. Thanks, Russell. That was awesome. Did
Cool.
a really good job there.
Thanks,
You
John.
might be a night owl, but I'm a early bird.
Yeah, I'm definitely a night owl.
Yeah,
My
no,
wife's an early bird. It's interesting, anyway.
would be.
Yeah.
No, my husband gets up early now too. It was when you were discussing your 90-day book and everything. I really like doing 90-day goals rather than yearly goals because you just don't achieve them if they're a year in the future. Things happen. When do you plan the next 90 days?
Yeah. So I'll just be clear. I have an annual plan as well with all my clients, but it's not super detailed, but it's an annual plan, what we need to do. And then I say, right, what if we're going to achieve that in the next 12 months, what do we need to do in the next 90 days? And I do that now. So this next quarter, October, November, December, I actually do it. I'm starting. There's had some personal reasons why it's not happening right now, but we're doing the webinar on Friday, which is about setting that up. But all my clients, my coaching clients, nearly all of them have got our 90-day plans already in place. Yeah. So we do them before just at the end of the quarter, so we can reflect on the quarter and before we get into the next quarter.
Okay.
Yep.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fabulous. We've got Aldrin.
Absolutely love that, Russ. And I do recommend get yourself a rooster if you live on a big block of land, because you'll definitely get to bed earlier if you.
Yes.
So
I used to have a rooster. You throw it away every minute.
I need to get to bed a little bit earlier. It's nature's alarm clock. My questions are around some of the tech tools you mentioned. You said Asana, you said Trello and then Asana. I'm just wondering what are the main differences you found with those two, and why do you want to go OneNote to Notion?
So Trello, I found as an individual was really a useful tool. So for me as an individual, I use Trello, which is fantastic. But when wanted to start working with my team, so I've got two virtual assistants I've had in the Philippines for over a decade, wonderful people who make my life amazing. And I found that Trello stuff would disappear off my board into their boards and I would never see it again. And it was difficult to put in subtasks. So I would put in, develop a workshop for XYZ. I might have to deliver a training workshop or something for a team member, or we've got a big planning session coming up. And there are subtasks to that. And so I found Asana way, way better for putting subtasks in than Trello. Now, Trello may have developed in the 5 or 6 years since I haven't been using it, but in those days, it didn't do subtasks well. So that's probably the main reason for that. And now, like to improve my productivity, the other thing is probably I didn't talk about, well, didn't have time to talk about, but my PA goes through my calendar every day, looks ahead 4 weeks, and finds out what appointments have been put in there, what's coming up, that sort of stuff, and then loads tasks into Asana. And the tasks are deliver that, prepare for that, follow up for that. And we have some rules around how far forward the preparation is from the delivery and how much the follow up. So, because I found that I was really quite good at delivering and I can leave things to the last minute. I'm fantastic under pressure. Lousy way to live your life, let me tell you. And therefore, I found it was better that as I said, all these things are not natural to me, but they're things that make me more productive. So now I do my preparation before a meeting. I follow up because it's there. I don't leave it for days on end. I get it done quickly because it's scheduled, and if I can, I get it done fast. So that's part of that. And then the Notion thing. Notion is just far more connected, and so it's got better API and all that sort of stuff. And I think I can. Whereas OneNote's a bit challenging to use. Microsoft like to use it within their own environment. And I'm a Mac user, so, Apple and Microsoft just have little squabbles all the time over that sort of stuff. OneNote's not the tool it is in Windows compared to Apple. And I've just looked at Notion and I just like the way it links things together and connects things. And the fact that it's a pretty open API, so you can actually link it into AI, Zapier, all those sorts of things quite easily, whereas OneNote is way harder. Yeah. I'm not saying you can't do it, but just way easier.
Great, thank you. And what about for chatting with your VAs? Do you use Asana for that, or do you use something like Slack? Or
we use Asana for that's related to each task, but if it's urgent stuff, we use WhatsApp because so I just go. We got a little group WhatsApp chat and individual ones for them, and I'll just jump on and go because power and things over there are fluid, internet connection. Then sometimes I don't know they're not online or they've normally got enough battery power to get a phone service. So I'll go, hey, I've just uploaded something. Did you get it? And I'll go back and go, oh, sorry, power's out. Or they'll send me things saying power's just dropped out. So I know. So we use that for urgent, important communication, but we don't, I don't put in detailed instructions about a particular job in there. That goes into Asana.
beautiful. And one last question. I love what you did with your phone because my phone feels like an absolute mess compared to yours. So where do you recommend to go to get organized with that? Is there some good resources or good person you suggest following?
I don't know if I could find the guy again, but I've just said to somebody the other day, they said you really should do a video on that. So I might even do a short video on that and put that on my site. But it's not that hard. I'll see if I can find the YouTube video and flick it to Nick. But you could just search YouTube for how do I make my iPhone more efficient, and you'll find something along the lines. But it's basically you set up focus zones and screens, and in the focus zone, which might be leisure, you can define what apps are open, what other things are not. This is on iPhone, sorry, I'm not an Android user. And you can also define what screens appear when you run that focus zone. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. I love everything you shared. I've been working on my productivity for ages, and I think as a high achiever, or as a lot of us are here, it kind of feels like there's always stuff to do, even when you've got a big team, right? There's always
stuff to do.
So yeah, feels like beating up.
I was talking to Nick earlier. I work 4 days a week. How I got into that was I decided I need to get a hobby. My wife thought I was going to go stamp collecting. I got a motorbike, and when I got my, it's a true story. And when I got my learner's license, I had to ride with another rider, and he became a really good friend. And he said, "Look, I go riding every Tuesday with these guys. Why don't you come with us?" So I thought for 12 weeks I can block out every Tuesday and go motorbike riding. Over that time, I realized that my productivity didn't drop because I only work 4 days a week. Because I came back and I focused on the stuff that was there. So now I have this presence not productive thing. Come back and I work. When I'm at work, I work. If I'm not feeling the love, I don't work. I just turn it off and I go, and I might come back and do it later. But there's sometimes I have to push through. But generally, I find I really just focus on, when I work, and I'm concentrating, I'm focused. I do all the things I say, focus, discipline, control. I actually walk the talk with it, and it works. Trust me. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
No worries.
Fabulous, excellent. Time for actually we've got no more time for questions. So that's our session. So probably, Russ, if people do want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Just I think I put my LinkedIn thing in my LinkedIn connection into the chat. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, but the slides that go out will have my phone and email address on them. I'm happy for you to contact me however you feel like. And it doesn't have to be about, do you want to come on as a client or anything? It could be you have a question around productivity and what might you do and how might you get through it. Really happy to have a chat with you about that. I think there's enough business to go around for all of us, and enough, if I can help you become more productive, then I'm very happy about that. Okay.
Fabulous, excellent. All right, well, let's give Russ a huge round of applause for that. Thank you. And I can see a whole lot more people being way more productive, actually not working very much at all. Just enjoying the journey a whole lot more, and some potential bike riders maybe coming through the crowd
every Tuesday. That's 100%.
There you go. All right, well, let's draw this door prize now. So don't disappear now. We've got the draw prize, which is those bundles that Russell mentioned. In fact, tonight we're going to do 2 of these draws. So there are 2 people who can win this. Remember, you've got to be in the room to win. So stick around as we spin the wheel. All right, let's spin the wheel and see who number 1 is. All right, away it goes. So virtual drum roll on your desk. And it is going to be, who is it, David or Donna? That'll be David. David Fisher, are you here? I can't see David. No, has David disappeared? He's madly trying to find the unmute button now.
I'm here.
Yeah, David.
Fabulous. This is quite a streak you're having, David.
It's actually been the 3rd time, isn't it?
It is. So
it's been greedy.
Well, I don't know what you're doing there, but you're
I'm doing something right anyway.
I've
I've synchronized that wheel, you see.
I think it must be something like that. Excellent. All right, so David, well done.
Can I just ask a question of David? David, what industry are you in, or what role do you have, or whatever that would be useful to have a prompt library for?
Well, we're business exit and beyond, so we help prepare and optimize and sell businesses. So in the journey of people, you're talking about efficiencies and all that type of thing in their business, and obviously in their lives. It would be very helpful in that process. Yeah.
Okay. So the journals will be that. I've got an AI prompt library that I'll see if I can tailor something for you. So are you an accountant or anything like that?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
No. So basically, a business broker.
Oh yeah, cool. Righto. Excellent. Thank you.
And he is an avid Asana user as well.
I am, yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I
you have a
use Asana
conversation
all the
with
time.
him.
I've actually done certification in that process. So we
Cool.
virtually bring all of our people onto Asana as well. It's very user friendly as well. So anyone that's looking at that, but it's a very good product. Very good. Yeah.
Nick, you'll get me physical addresses so that I can.
We'll connect you up tomorrow. So my people will get your people together. So tomorrow by email. All right, and we've got 1 more to go. So let's spin the wheel again for the 2nd round of the bundle. Where it goes. And it is Enza. Are you here, Enza? I think Enza might have disappeared. All right, Enza has disappeared early, so that means we get to spin the 3rd time. So let's see who our 3rd time lucky winner is. Let's send the wheel around. And it is, oh, it's a close one. This one, Jeff Gordon. Look at that, Jeff. You're the lucky second one today. Is Jeff here? Actually, I saw you waving.
Yeah.
What? Just tell Russ what industry you're in, so he knows what ones to give you.
Oh, firstly, Russ, I want to thank you for your wonderful presentation. Probably one of the best ever I've ever seen on a webinar. So well done.
Well, thank you.
I know a guy who does time management coaching, but you're in another league. You're fantastic.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I've just started a virtual CFO business a few months ago.
Yep.
So you're the person I need to speak to. I'll book a call on your website.
Cool.
And yeah, and I'll send you a message, a couple of questions I've got. Yeah.
Happy to, Jeff. That's
Lovely
great.
to talk to you.
Great stuff. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that.
Excellent. And we'll connect you up by email tomorrow as well too. So we'll just pop into each other.
Well done, Nick,
Davis,
well done on choosing Russ, Nick.
Thank you. Yeah, Russ and I have known each other for a wee while, and as it turned out, Russ just sort of shot me through an email about his session on Friday, which, by the way, I'm going to. So if anyone's coming along to that, yeah, come along. It'd be great to sort of have other people that I know there as well too. And I know that Russ always delivers value on the workshops.
So you'll
as well.
struggle to get someone better next week.
Yeah. Well, actually, we did have something else planned for this week. For those of you that might have remembered last time, it was going to be some of the new features or AI features in Canva. So, but when the email came through, I thought, oh, this is probably a better topic for this week, and it's time sensitive as well too. So that's why Russ is here. But next week we will have what's new with AI and Canva. That'll be Jenny Mutu. She'll be talking about that. Those of you that know Jenny know that she's an absolute whiz around Canva. And so she's probably going to do some stuff. I don't want to preempt what she's doing, but probably some stuff with some of the stuff she works in ChatGPT and Canva, but also some of the tools that are now in Canva as well. Pretty incredible, some of the stuff they can do. So yeah, if you want to find out a bit more about how to do that, that is next week's session. For this week's session, if you want to watch it again, we'll have this up on our YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. If you're not a subscriber, we'll drop all those links in chat. And if you know anyone else that would benefit from this as well too, then yeah, send it along to the YouTube channel and it'll be there tomorrow afternoon. And I think that is about it for tonight. So once again, round of applause for Russell. Thanks very much for coming on to the show, especially at short notice as well, and especially since you're not at home.
Yeah, that's right. I'm on the motorbike. Who cares?
Yeah. And thanks everyone for popping along tonight, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Russell. That's brilliant. Yep.
Well done.
And do we see you, Nick, on Friday afternoon?
Oh, that's Friday afternoon. This is after Russ's workshop, so
Yes,
I probably
it is
should have no
after. That's fine.
excuses, should I?
Yep.
All right, I'll come up
And
on Friday.
I'm going to challenge you. I've got a nice fancy shirt. It's quite colourful.
Right.
Whoa.
And it's
Might
got
have to go.
fishes on it, so it's appropriate. You know what I
A
mean?
fancy shirt challenge.
We're going to have a
Wow, there we
competition.
go.
So bring your.
I may have to go and see Paul and my friend David Smith down in Burleigh to see if I can pick up another shirt.
Oh, have you? Yeah, I've been to that shop. That's amazing, isn't it?
He's almost like a personal friend of Paul's now because he spent a whole lot of money there.
Yeah,
A bit like I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's worth going to that shop, isn't it? Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good. He's just moved actually, so but yeah, well worth going to. All right.
David,
Well,
are you there, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, about being a worthwhile shop to go to. I should say only if you want to look like Nick.
Yeah, that's right. But I think on occasionally you should just give it a go.
I deliberately buy shorts and trousers so you can't see the colourful side of what I'm wearing at the moment, but the top is the boring bit. I'll leave you with that.
Okay, we'll leave that to our imagination.
Thanks again. Excellent, by the way, Russell. That was just fabulous. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Paul.
absolutely.